Celebrate this day because it is a constant reminder that in the end, righteous will always prevail over evil. This day also reminds us that our democracy is a product of immense sacrifices. President Mandela also participated in various forums, and I can see also the former ministers participated in these forums, including one of the ANC conferences in 1992, which adopted a perspective or a policy document called Ready to Govern. This policy document affirmed the various policy positions of the ANC with regards to correctional services, with regards to the role of the independency of the National Prosecuting Authority, and with regard to the independence of the judiciary. It is this policy perspective which laid a policy and a foundation for our constitutional democracy and for the Constitution. In order for us to reconstruct this nation in the vision of the Freedom Charter, we need not just be a capable state, but a state which is going to frown upon any lack of ethics. 25 years into our constitutional democracy, we have built these institutions as envisaged by the Ready to Govern and the Freedom Charter. This moment of renewal in our country calls all of us to stand in these principles and also in the values of Nelson Mandela. Through his own conduct, President Mandela assured the nation and the rest of the world that anyone, regardless of their social standing, must subject himself or herself to any judicial scrutiny or judicial process. In the matter between President of the Republic of South Africa, which was Nelson Mandela at the time, and the South African Football Union and others, in 1999, Mandela subjected himself to cross-examination at a time when he was a sitting president. This was a clear example of what is meant by the supremacy of a constitution. It was also a firm commitment to the Freedom Charter's injunctions, which says, all shall be equal before the law. One can imagine the dismay the former President Mandela will today express if he were to wake up to see the manner in which certain people cast aspersions and chant irresponsible statements against the judiciary. If a man who enjoyed so much pain and sacrificed a great deal of his life for the realization of our court processes and the constitutional democracy, there can never be any sort of justification towards unwarranted attacks on the judiciary and the circumvention of the rule of law by any section of our society. There are checks and balances for those who are not satisfied by decisions of our courts. People can appeal, can review, can do anything which is relevant and defined by the constitutions. Decisions of judges are not above criticism. Judges criticize each other, academics criticize judgments, but it is done in a fair, balanced, and informed manner by facts and the law. It is not an unwarranted personal attacks on the person of the judges, conspiracies, and other unfounded allegations, which are just aimed to derail and denigrate the personalities of judges. Judiciary must be anyone who does that personal degradation of the judiciary must be condemned by all citizens of our country. We must never allow our country to descend to levels of other countries where police, prosecutors, or even the judiciary, for them to do their job, they must negotiate with drug cartels and criminals. We must never degenerate to lawlessness or a banana republic. The consequences of this area, of this kind of behavior, are palpable and will lead to catastrophic disaster. When that happens, institutions that are intended to serve the interest of society become compromised, and this, as we have seen, has resulted in complete breakdown in some of our institutions and even paralyzed or crippled them, like in the provision of electricity, water supply, reliable trains, and the airlines in our country. As a country, we must use this moment of renewal, as led by President Ramaphosa, to reform institutions and the whole architecture of the state to serve the people, to work for economic growth and rebuild the credibility of our criminal justice system. The rule of law must reign supreme. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an era where we will not be silent to allow falsehoods to triumph. We will draw inspiration from Nelson Mandela and reconstruct this nation in the image of the Freedom Charter. We will not be derailed any longer. The dreams of our forebearers can no longer be deferred. In Mandela, we see a continuous cause for justice. We owe it to his memory to ensure that society live up to the ideals that define the South Africa that he fought for so hard. In conclusion, let us remember that Mandela said when he walked out of this prison, "As I walked out of the door towards the gate that will lead to my freedom, I knew that if I did not leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I will still be in prison." We must be able to work to renew our country, to move and forge forward for the next 25 years for the betterment of all South Africans and for all humanity.